That's much better. Good morning. It's me, Tomias, an avid Terov enthusiast. In today's episode, we're talking about the Packtalk Duo. I'm just sitting here next to my WSK, actually, across from my WSK, and I'm wondering, is this device too difficult for me? Today, we're in my motorcycle command center. Today, it's cold outside, so I'm skipping riding, but instead, I'll be delving into the highest model of Cardo intercoms, namely the Packtalk Bold in the Duo configuration, which means it's set up for 2 people, for a passenger and a rider, or for 2 friends who ride on separate motorcycles. The intercom you see here is equipped with DMC technology. This means it allows for conversation or riding together and sharing experiences, just chatting among up to 50 motorcyclists. In a moment, we'll see what Cardo is worth. Let's take a look at what's inside. I'll show you how to install the intercom on your helmet without damaging the helmet. And most importantly, so you don't damage the intercom itself, because we have to remember that neither the intercom nor the helmet are cheap. Compared to the old Packtalk, the Packtalk Bold Duo definitely comes in a much smaller package. It's not as luxuriously presented as the old one. However, inside you find exactly the same things as in the old version. Of course, we have a guide that is the user manual in Polish. It's very long and comprehensive, but we won't be needing it. What we're interested in is what's inside. So 2 devices for 2 helmets, for 2 people. What do we have here? A beepling and sticker, whatever that means. We don't need it. Pocket guide not needed. Goya de box silo not needed. Guide box not needed. But this is what we do need. 2 packets with contents, that is, everything we need to install the intercom in the helmet. To start with, charging, that is, a cable, and super noise cancelling foam pads, which will make the sound quality even better. And of course the intercom base, which we'll be putting into the helmet in a moment, but more on that soon. Velcro pads for attaching the speakers, a microphone if you have a modular helmet, and the speakers themselves. Importantly, they have a standard jack input, so you can also plug in your own earbuds and listen that way. Alcohol, 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 alcohol. I also have some on a napkin that might come in handy later. Square adhesive pads, which we'll use later to attach the microphone, but more on that in a moment. And a little charger, something that not many manufacturers remember to include. They give you cables, but no chargers. Later, those chargers go missing and you're left with just the cables, because you didn't get chargers with half of your equipment. Chargers. We'll leave the second package for now. Maybe it'll make a nice gift for my fiance. And she'll be happy, although I'm not sure if I will, because I'll have to talk to her the whole time while driving. And I prefer to just ride on my own. First, we're interested in the helmet, specifically its interior. If you haven't bought an intercom yet, the most important thing is to check whether the interior of your helmet is removable. At least the cheek pads. While the cheek pads can almost always be removed, the central part of the helmet is sectioned here. Sometimes there are helmets where, unfortunately, you can't take out the interior. In that case, you have to run the cables on the outside or try to improvise, cut something, and that's when things start to get complicated. We remove the interior. Most often, this is very simple and doesn't cause any problems. The entire interior is almost always attached with these delicate clips that just need a little tug, and they pop out of the helmet. And that's it. While you're at it, if you're already disassembling the helmet, you can open it up, wash it, spray it with the right foams to eliminate unpleasant odors after the whole season. Well, now, as we all unfortunately probably suspect, The season is over. And soon, or maybe already, your motorcycles are standing in garages waiting for spring. Now, I can finally proceed to dump out all of the accumulated mud, which, to be perfectly honest, I have absolutely no idea where it came from or precisely why it managed to get in there at all during the entirety of the whole riding season. We've already removed the interior. If you're installing an intercom, you won't always be able to slide the intercom plate in here in every helmet. Unfortunately, some helmets don't allow for this because they have a collar filling all around the helmet, and then it becomes a problem. It's also a problem when the sun visor mechanism is located in this spot. This device will simply cover that mechanism and you won't be able to operate it. The sun visor, luckily my mechanism is here. The sun visor is here, so there's no problem. Of course, we can get around this issue by using a different plate, one that the manufacturer also includes, by sticking it somewhere else on the helmet in various places so that you can use the intercom. The speakers already have Velcro, meaning the other side of the Velcro, which will stick here. Unfortunately, I won't use these original Velcro pads. I'll use the accessory ones from the box because they'll hold better and there's less chance that the speakers will fall out later. One is already attached, now it's time for the second one. This base here is thinner than it used to be. It used to be much thicker, and that was in the older classic Packtalka. In the bolt set, it's much thinner, which means it takes up less space and is easier to fit into the helmet, for example, in this spot. Unfortunately, in this spot, my logo will be covered. I hope there won't be any trouble. The device is already in place. Also remember that most helmets allow you to use or install dedicated intercoms for the helmet. And these dedicated intercoms are usually much easier to install than this kind of equipment. However, this also has its drawbacks. The biggest drawback of dedicated intercoms is that such an intercom is produced throughout the entire production run. For example, of a helmet. Simply of a helmet. And these devices won't be as technologically advanced as, for example, universal devices. However, they have the advantage of being hidden inside the helmet. They don't stick out and they don't make noise. Their installation is easier. We have two speakers. The one with the shorter cable is installed right next to the side of the intercom that is on the right side. Fortunately, my helmet has grooves for the wires, which means this intercom will fit better. The headphones are already in place. Now they need to be connected. Here we have two cables sticking out of the intercom. One of them is for the headphones, already plugged in. The next thing we need to do is install the microphone. The set includes two microphones, this one and this one. We use this one if we have a modular helmet. Then the microphone sticks out nicely and we can communicate without any problem. And this smaller one, which we use in full face helmets like this type, where the chin bar doesn't lift up, we stick this piece near the ventilation area. We just have to remember not to block it. Before we stick the microphone on, we need to trim this piece, this sticker, so that we don't block the entire ventilation. I'm going to use my incredibly powerful supercutters for this particular task, which I meticulously crafted myself somewhere deep within a traditional Dagestani hut. Actually, upon further reflection, it was more accurately a rustic Russian one. Dolawi chest. I managed to attach this strap and it turned out so well, so nicely, that it doesn't block my ventilation at all. So I won't be suffocating in this helmet, and I'm sticking on the microphone. Now I can talk as much as I want. Of course, I'm connecting the microphone to the central unit. And now the intercom is already inside the helmet. Now it's time to put the interior back in. Of course, that's if you've thoroughly washed it, because otherwise it's certainly not exactly clean. We absolutely need to carefully tuck these various cables in such a precise way that the cheek pad can smoothly go in without any trouble or obstruction whatsoever. What I usually do is leave some slack here, then I push this cable between the shell and the EPS. I'll do it in a moment with some flat tool. Sometimes there are issues with this, and honestly, this is the biggest problem when installing an intercom. What to do with these cables, how to tuck them in so they're not hanging outside, and to make sure they're nicely tucked away here. The most important thing at the end, before you turn it on and start playing around with the intercom options, is to check whether the speakers you just installed in the helmet aren't too far from your ears. If they are, then in the set, There are spacers that you can use to bring the speakers closer from the helmet to your ears, or you can simply remove them and install just the headphones. That way, it will be looser around your ears. But the further the speakers are from your ears, the weaker the sound will be, and at higher speeds you'll hear even less. In the case of modular helmets, remember that the part responsible for the microphone simply has to be positioned right next to your mouth, and it needs to be pointed at your mouth with that yellow arrow. It can't be facing the other way, because then it won't work, and all the voice functions and voice commands won't operate. They won't work for you. The same applies to the stick-on microphone here. It needs to be attached near your mouth, as close to your mouth as possible. So it's a good idea to put on the helmet before installation and check if the spot you've chosen is suitable. And finally, the last step of our work, installing the intercom. We install it like this. First the front, then we click it in at the back, and the intercom is in place. We definitely won't lose it. We adjust it so that it's positioned properly. Well, we're ready to go. All right, I actually had to grab the user manual because I couldn't pair it, but it's really simple. And it's described in Polish on this big page. So to pair the device, you need to hold this bottom button here for 5 seconds, or actually a bit less. Hold this bottom button here for a little while. And this button starts flashing blue and red. You need to enable the search option on your phone. Then click on the device. That's what I did. And it connected right away, and I even already made a phone call. It turns out my voice isn't really distorted, almost not at all. The sound quality is very good. Music too. I just have the impression that it might be a bit too quiet at higher speeds, but we'll see. Of course, a full review. Packtalk Bold. You'll find it soon in SWAT Motorcycling magazine. For now, you'll have to make do with this video you've just watched. I'm gonna sit in this helmet for a little while longer. I need to check if the speakers are pressing against me, because it might turn out that in half an hour my ears might start to hurt and I'll have to change something. That's why it's very important not to be making these adjustments on the road during a trip. And if there's still a sunny day left this year, well, it's better to go for a ride than to tinker with your helmet. Although I probably won't be riding, because as you can see, my BMW is completely taken apart. I have no idea why it's not running, what's going on with the fuel delivery. It won't rev up and it's acting crazy. I'm devastated. Luckily the half-liter works. It always works. The half-liter, it always works. Even if it breaks down, it still works. Especially in the girls. All the best, take care, cheers, bye. I just remembered I didn't mention a few very important things that you can even hear me at all. You need to remember one thing about these devices. You must never charge the Cardo carelessly. No matter what chargers you use, you should always use the original charger for this, because you could burn out the processor in the camera. That's one. Two, we need to remember this. To operate the Cardo intercom, of course, we can use the app, which is available for download in the app stores. It's free, works very easily, and helps us avoid all the complications that can arise, because Cardo is basically not the easiest intercom to use. It has a lot of options. However, after a few uses, you'll master them perfectly and you'll be able to handle it just fine. Additionally, we have voice commands, and these features also simply help with operating the intercom. What's more, we don't have to take our hands off the handlebars. On the Packtalk box, you'll find a note saying that the device is universal and also connects with other intercoms. You need to take this with a grain of salt and pay attention to this option. With a pinch of salt. Of course, there's a good chance that Cardo will connect with other intercom brands, but very often it works out. You'll only be able to do this from the universal intercom mode, which means the range of your device will drop to a minimum. And often it will only allow communication between the passenger and the rider. You won't be able to pair these devices and use them on two separate motorcycles. Unfortunately, that's not possible. If you want to ride as two separate units, you need to have intercoms of the same brand that's when it's the easiest. Also, well, I can never guarantee that two different devices will always pair with each other. Sometimes all it takes is an update and everything will work, but very often some error will just pop up. Maybe an update will help, but you need to check that, and always test these things in the store when you're choosing an intercom. If your friend already has a device, try to choose equipment that will allow you to connect and talk to each other. If you can't pair your intercom with another intercom, even if it's also a Cardo device, although I suspect that shouldn't be an issue, as this problem usually concerns other brands of intercoms, other brands, remember that you should first update the device, connect it to your computer, and most importantly, connect the power supply to the computer so the update isn't interrupted due to a power outage. Update the device, and then your devices will most likely pair successfully. Cardo also has a cool feature that I mentioned at the very beginning, namely the TMC technology. Thanks to it, every intercom becomes a separate device that can easily join a conversation, for example a conference call, and disconnect without having to repair with the network. And another very important thing is that in the case of the Packtalk, in the case of the Packtalk, each device is both a receiver and a transmitter. So if we have a range of 1.6 kilometers with TMC technology, this range essentially multiplies because every device along the route between the first and the last. For motorcyclists, it is both a receiver and a transmitter, which means the distance increases to the maximum and we can talk over several kilometers. Of course, this is still an estimate because a lot depends on the conditions, the situation on the road, and so on. Thanks to which I look absolutely truly great, but I genuinely truly can't see anything at all. And the battery. The battery is also a very important and absolutely crucial element to Packtalk. If you want to use it, of course. Cardo claims that the battery will last 13 hours. And in fact, that's true. I've already had the chance to just go with Packtalk, and it really did last as long as the manufacturer claims. The device didn't disconnect, didn't freeze, which is the most important thing, and everything worked properly. I encourage you to read the print edition. There you'll find all the details and a full review of our Packtalk. You can make your life easier and not have to leave the house for a newspaper by simply subscribing. That way it's easier, and that way it's faster. And the newspaper is always on time.
IT is MI.
Have it. Don't bark at me. The turn signal, no.
Doesn't pay fines. Oh, this is the road. Go ahead. The name of the new arrival
Later you'll be shooting at me.
from the forest guard.
That he drives around and breaks the law, and this I don't drive and I don't break the law.
Yeah.